Good day, you're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Danie, Laurel.
And I'm Delos Santos. Here are today's top stories. The ASEAN Plus 3 Macroeconomic Research Office retains its growth forecast for the country this year, but trims its projection for 2023. The think tank says persisting inflationary pressures may weigh on consumer demand.
The Energy Department says the impact of petroleum exporting countries to cut oil production by 2 million barrels per day may be felt here in the Philippines as early as next week.
The government signs a $1.87 billion financing contract with the Asian Development Bank for the South Commuter Railway Project.
And the insurance industry releases nearly 21 billion pesos in COVID-19 related payouts since 2020. We begin our broadcast with the ASEAN Plus 3 Macroeconomic Research Office, or AMRO, keeping its growth forecast for the Philippines this year but trimming its projection for 2023 that's due to inflationary pressures and external headwinds. Now, the think tank retained its 6.9% growth estimate for the country this year, settling within the government's full-year target of 6.5% to 7.5%. However, for 2023, AMRO trimmed its GDP forecast to 6.3%, that is from 6.5% previously. AMRO says threats of a global slowdown may affect remittances from overseas Filipinos. The think tank also said that elevated prices may dampen consumer demand, this as inflation surged to a multi-year high of 6.9% in the month of September.
The National Economic Development Authority attributes the year-on-year decline in jobless Filipinos to the gradual reopening of the economy. But in a statement, Socioeconomic Planning Secretary Arsenio Balisacan said the government must not be complacent. Instead, Balisacan says the administration must harness the benefits of its key economic liberalization, which would attract high-value and innovation-driven investments. These investments, in turn, are seen to generate more and quality employment. The country's unemployment rate stood at 5.3% in August, lower than last year's 8.1%, but slightly higher than the 5.2% in July. Underemployment, meanwhile, increased to 14.7% from 13.8% in July. The Energy Department says the effect of the decision of petroleum exporting countries and their allies to cut oil production may be felt here in the Philippines as early as next week. The OPEC Plus decision comes just as oil companies implemented a fifth straight week of rollbacks for diesel and kerosene. According to the Oil Industry Management Bureau, the bloc's decision on steep production cuts will continue to push local fuel prices higher.
Dahil sa naging action na to, hindi natin ma-expect yung pagbalik uli nung dati na nasa 50, nasa 48 ang prices ng petroleum products. So ibig sabihin, matutuloy-tuloy pa rin yata itong ating sitwasyon na nasa 70 to 80.
Yesterday, the OPEC Plus said it would be slashing oil production by 2 million barrels per day in a bid to stabilize the global market. The production cut is equivalent to about 2% of the global supply. Over in the United States, the White House says U.S. President Joe Biden was disappointed by the group's decision, especially as the rest of the world continues to deal with the impact of Russia's attack on Ukraine. Back home, Senate President Mig Zubiri backed the U.S. leader's sentiment, saying that non-oil producing companies are at a disadvantage. The senator also warned of the domino effect that the production cut will have on the Philippine economy.
Kawawang-kawawa tayo dyan. Sa sinabi nilang, sa binanggit po nilang controls of 2 million barrels a day less output, it will affect the prices of fuel, which will again increase our pump prices on a local level. And it will trigger inflationary.
Now, how big of a pain should we be bracing for after the OPEC Plus's decision to cut production output? Does this mean another series of oil price hikes? Joining us for insights is Nonoy, Oplas, Economist and Columnist at Businessworld. Nonoy, good day. Thank you for joining us. What's the immediate impact here of the OPEC Plus's move to cut production output? How soon can we feel the pain? And does this mean an end to the series of oil price rollbacks that we've been seeing as of late?
Yeah, good morning, Jester, and good morning, Danie. The impact, well, let's look first at the number. No, as of this month, the total production of OPEC plus Russia is about 43.8 million barrels per day. So with the decision yesterday, that means that they will bring it down to only 41.8 million barrels per day. So the bulk of oil production still come from non-OPEC countries like America, like the US, Norway, Canada, etc. But it's just that they are not expanding enough to production. So the impact on oil demand is that we're supposed to be, the oil demand, global demand in 2019 was 100.2 million barrels per day, went down to 91 million barrels in 2000, 97 million last year, and back to 100 million. I think with what happened yesterday, the decision of OPEC, or the other day of OPEC, the global oil demand may not even reach 100 million barrels per day, but something like 98 to 99. So the immediate impact of that will be on prices. So we can expect that, although now, say at the moment, the WTI is $88 per barrel. Last week it went down to as low as 77 dollars per barrel, but we might reach up to, again, 90 to 100. But it's not really that much, because we, until about March, until August, we have about $100 per barrel. So even at the current 88, is still lower compared to the previous months.
Okay. Sir, does this in any way justify President BBM's statement that we might be looking to tap into diversifying the sources of oil, such as talking to Russia?
Yeah, I support that. I think that's the good thing to do, because what is actually happening is that Russia, until 2019, was producing about 11.6 million barrels per day. Now it went down to in the 2021 because of the lockdown. And until January, February, it was still producing about 11.5 million barrels per day. And because of the sanctions, the decline. But until August, Russia is still producing 11 million barrels per day. What happened is that, like Germany and the rest of Europe were importing directly from Russia because of the sanction. Now Russia is selling more to China, and China is processing the Russian crude and is processing diesel, gasoline, etc., and shipping it back to Europe at a higher price. So practically, the production of Russia is reduced only very little. So we can, and Russia is selling it at discount. If the global price is, say, $88 per barrel, I think Russia is selling it to maybe about 80 or lower. I think we should take advantage of that.
Very
but again,
interesting. Go.
And at the same time, of course, one of the major concerns is how is this going to further worsen price pressures that we are experiencing at the moment?
You mean the impact on the economy?
Inflation, yes, exactly.
That overall is generally, but as I said, the impact will not be that
much.
Will not be that much compared to, say, July, August level, because at that around that month we're about $100 per barrel. No, so now 88 is still below the previous month. So I think that we might go back to 90 or 100, and we might go back to maybe, say, gasoline at up to 75, maybe below 80 pesos per liter. So I think we're just going back. So it's not something like we'll experience 90 or 100 pesos per liter. I don't think it will reach that level.
Sir, given that the oil prices have pared back, why is inflation still at quite a record high? Does this mean that the supply side issues have not been addressed?
Yeah. Because it has a lag, no? Like for food production, like now rice farming, very few farmers use the animal carabao tilling. They use tractors, no, for harvesting. They don't use manual harvest. Use harvester thresher combiner machines. So a lot of these machines now use a lot of diesel. That is why what the Philippines can do actually is to cut back the oil taxes, no? Like diesel, it used to be, before the train, the tax on diesel was 0. And with train, it went up to 6 pesos. I think that people have to realize that oil is not a public bad. Oil is a public good, it's a useful commodity, and the tax should be zero. Although I think officials realize that but they just need more tax money because of the high borrowings and high deficit situation of the government.
But at the same time, I mean, making changes to those tax laws is going to require some time for that to actually put in place. So given that, what else can the government do, or are they left with no other choices here to actually help address inflation, considering that in the latest survey, inflation turns out to be the biggest concern of Filipinos. At the same time, they are not satisfied with how the government is handling this.
Yeah, there are other contribution to inflation, like for instance, the various government permits, like any government additional permit, etc., and the unnecessary apprehensions like the income, etc. They eat up on the supposed income of the people. So I think the people should pull back. Government should pull back on those unnecessary restrictions and regulations. And I think that the lesson here for the monetary authorities is that despite the increase in central bank rates from 2% until about February, March, is now 4.25%. It has not put a dent. It has not really successfully controlled inflation. Although the central bank can say that, but it would have been worse if we didn't raise the interest rate. That might be a point. But the main point is that continued increase in central bank rates has not controlled inflation. There should be solutions somewhere else aside from increasing government central bank policy rates.
Will dole-outs still do the trick? The likes of Pantawid Pasada, do we even have enough fiscal space for that?
I think those are very stopgap measures because inflation is a result of supply-demand. That means the demand is high and supply is not responding enough. So the government, people, Philippine businesses and Philippine entrepreneurs should produce more, no? And I think from everything from food to construction materials, government should find ways to facilitate the increased further production of those goods and services in order to cool down prices. Supply must increase relative to demand. That's the main way to cut inflation.
Sir, before we let you go, assessment of President BBM's first 100 days in office, he had promised that his main objective was to fight inflation and also prop up the agricultural sector. Those were his immediate urgent concerns. What can you say about that?
Well, in a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being excellent, I would say they made something like 7. No,
Okay.
like for instance, an inflation until August, our inflation 6.3% was only 4 years high, and at that time, South Korea has 24 years high inflation. For September, for instance, Germany at 10% has 70 years high inflation rate. UK and US have 40 years inflation rate. Our 6.9% inflation in September was only 13 years high, the highest since 2009, because if we reached 6.8, it would have been 4 years high only because that was the level of October 2018. So, but if you look at the jump in month-on-month inflation, Indonesia has increased by 1.1 percentage point from August to September. Vietnam another 1.0%. Philippines is only 0.3% increase in month-on-month. So I think that in terms of controlling inflation, to a certain extent, this administration was able to temper. It could have been worse, than possible.
All right, thank you for that assessment. 7 out of 10 for the first 100 days. Hopefully, just in the improvements as well as we go along. Thank you so much, Nonoy, Oplas, Economist, and Businessworld columnist. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Danie. Thank you, Jess.
Well, let's pause for a quick break, but coming right up after that, the Asian Development Bank calls for vigilance on the implementation of the South Commuter Railway Project.
More of that and other stories when Businessworld Live returns. Stay with us.
And you're still watching Business World Live here on One News. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel.
The Asian Development Bank called for vigilance on the implementation of the South Commuter Railway Project, which is being funded by a $4.3 billion loan to the government. On Thursday, October 6th, President Bongbong Marcos witnessed the signing ceremony on the first 4 civil work contracts for the 54.6-kilometer railway that will connect Manila to Calamba in Laguna. The first phase of the project is worth $1.87 billion or more than 105 billion pesos. Winfried Wicklane, AADB's Deputy Director General for Southeast Asia, reminds those involved in the project that they all have the collective responsibility to ensure that it's delivered. He tells the Philippine government and its contractors that with great funding comes great responsibility. The South Commuter Railway is part of the 147-kilometer North-South Commuter Railway network, which the ADB described as the largest infrastructure project in the history of ADB financing. The commuter railway is also partly funded by the Japan International Cooperation Agency.
Great quantities of money come with great responsibility. Today, we must deliver this project at high quality, within budget, and like the trains themselves, arriving at our destination on schedule.
As your president, I will make sure that every resource that will be used here will be maximized for the success of this entire endeavor. I thus call upon the Department of Transportation, all the concerned agencies to ensure the smooth and faithful implementation of this essential undertaking.
The insurance industry has released nearly 21 billion pesos in COVID-related payouts since the start of the pandemic. This comes as insurers issued 1.18 billion pesos in COVID benefits to policyholders for the second quarter of 2022. This is according to data from the Insurance Commission. The latest figure brings the total claims paid to 20.8 billion pesos since March of 2020. Now, year-on-year, COVID-related claims in the second quarter dropped by 52%. However, death claims saw an 8% increase, while hospitalization benefits jumped by more than 300%.
Many countries are experiencing a shortage of nurses 3 years into the pandemic. The Philippines, the world's largest exporter of nurses, is hoping to fill the gaps with thousands rushing to enroll in nursing schools in a bid for a better life abroad. Let's hear more from Bloomberg Quick Take.
If I work abroad, my abilities can be expanded. Unlike here,
healthcare systems around the world are experiencing a nurse shortage as many protest low wages and long hours. Others threatening to quit after years of working under the pandemic. That means governments are competing to attract talent from countries like the Philippines, the world's largest exporter of nurses. Elaine Torres is one of thousands of young Filipinos responding to the calls. She juggles a 6-hour commute 6 days a week to attend nursing school with the dream of working overseas for a better pay and lifestyle.
I decided to enroll in nursing school since last year, 2021. I'm considering job overseas. I'm looking forward po in working in New Zealand.
The shortage for nurses is on track to more than double from pre-pandemic levels to reach 13 million people globally. Countries are implementing initiatives to welcome foreign workers as quickly as possible. Germany aims to recruit Filipino nurses by offering to pay for travel expenses, language training, and helping find accommodation. Australia is increasing its skilled migrant cap by 35,000 to 195,000 workers, which includes nurses.
There's a lot of changes po needed for me to work here in the Philippines. Healthcare system here is not as good as some other countries.
The Philippines issued more than 11,000 nursing licenses last year, but it's still far from making up the potential shortage of 13 million.
After failing to secure the energy regulator's approval for a rate hike petition, San Miguel Corporation announced that it is selling its power plant's output to the wholesale electricity spot market, or WESM. The firm says it will also enter into bilateral contracts with off-takers. In a stock market disclosure, SMC assured that it will continue supplying power to Meralco within the 60-day period after receiving the ERC decision, or once the termination of their power supply agreements takes effect. SMC previously said that it had incurred losses of about 15 billion pesos, prompting the petition for the power rate increase, which has been denied by ERC. The losses were attributed to surging fuel costs breaching the price range anticipated during the execution of SMC's agreements with Meralco.
Now on to some global updates. A Delaware judge holds off a court case against Elon Musk over his $44 billion purchase of Twitter. The judge says this is to give the billionaire time to complete his purchase of the platform. This comes after Musk revived his original offer to buy the platform for $54.20 apiece. However, should the transaction still not be completed by October 28th, the court will set a new trial date in November.
And those are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate front today. I'm Jess Del Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel. We are One News, all sides, all the time. But don't go away. We'll give you the latest on the local boards when Businessworld Live returns. Stay with us.
And you're still watching Businessworld Live here on One News. Now, Dan, time to shine for those commodities, even as though they may further stoke inflation. Which stocks stand to gain?
Okay, well, apart from oil producers, which do stand to gain, let's just take a quick peek on the oil. It was mentioned by Nonoy Oplas, our economist here, 88.48 to a barrel here. That's in dollars, of course. So a bit of a bump up, but as you can see, as you mentioned, quite far from the 120 a barrel that we had seen even amidst this. Now let's take a quick peek at other commodities, particularly nickel. You can also see this jumping by 7% in just the past 3 days. This is on the back, of course, on the London Metal Exchange having a formal discussion on a potential ban on new Russian metal. And analysts are saying that any move of this, if they start banning Russian metal, could have an impact on some of our nickel producers. And let's take a look at some of those here. Of course, we've got Nickel Asia, one of our biggest miners here. You've got Philex as well. It does seem to be the case, so that they are not necessarily gaining on the back of this. Nickel Asia down by 2.8%. Apex Mining as well down by 3%, Jess.
But let's have a quick check here of our telco stocks just after PLDT is making some demand for payments here from Dito.
Yeah, this just in. You've got the PLDT claiming that Dito has not paid close to 430 million pesos worth of services that PLDT claims it had already delivered. And of course, as you mentioned, let's take a peek of Dito here. It's down by 6 centavos. That's by 2.5%. in just the past 3 days. They've been hounded, of course, not just dito, but other Dennis Oy related stocks have been hounded by claims that they have been or might be defaulting on some of their liabilities there. So this is just the latest in that. And finally, just to close off this week, how are we doing? Not too great, I have to say. Still hovering at 5,800 levels here for the local bourse. It's down by close to 2% in the past 3 days.
And that's it for today, October 7, 2022. Join us again Monday next week at exactly 9:30 a.m. You can also catch us on Signal Play. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel. Stay safe, Philippines. We are One News, all sides, all the time.